Hello, Eyemèr here. So I know I haven't been very active on here for quite a while, but I have something to talk about, so let's just talk. Where do I start? It's morning, so I'm... So, I have a new song coming out, and actually also a whole new EP. The first single of the EP is called Reborn, and it's coming out the 20th of November. It features the trans artist Ryan Casera, and it's about getting top surgery, looking forward to top surgery, and having had top surgery and just like feeling so comfortable in your body like I feel now. Like I feel so good, like having a flat chest. I sometimes forget that it was different before, you know. I think it's a song that many trans people will be able to relate to, or at least I hope so. I don't think there's like real songs about that, or not like specifically about it, so I hope in that way that it can mean something to the community, just like it meant a lot to me when I wrote it. My cat is doing crazy shit, but that's okay. So if you hear noise, she's jumping on things. Let's maybe talk about the Polaroids in the bag. These are actually part of the music video that I made for my song Reborn. They are actually all people that are trans and or non-binary, and they all have had top surgery. You will see on the 20th of November the video will come out, and I will do something with these Polaroids because I want to have more representation of people like us, because our bodies are normal, you know, we are just trans and we have trans bodies. I just wanted to make a video where I show trans bodies of people who have had top surgery, which doesn't mean that you can be trans if you don't have any surgeries or you don't go on HRT. It's just I wanted to show specifically this because the song is about top surgery, and I just think we need to see more bodies like these, because we don't see them often, and we exist and we are normal. So yeah, so I really hope that that video can mean something to trans people and to anyone actually. I've worked so hard on it. I've worked hard on the song, but I've also worked so hard on the video. I worked two whole days on it to film it, and then like a few other days to edit it. I did a DIY, but I still think that it's nice, and maybe it's even more honest because I just did it with my own camera, and it's all about the, you know, the pictures that you see. It's not about like having the most amazing lighting or something, you know. I've already had a few like comments of people who are in the video, because of course I have sent them the video already in advance. All the people who reacted were like really nice about it, and maybe those reviews are more important to me than some media outlet that thinks it's not for everyone or something. I'd rather not be like in any magazine or newspaper and like have the community really like it and resonate with it, than having like a lot of media attention but for the wrong reasons, you know. Maybe they see it as something fascinating or something. I don't want that either. I just want to have normal conversations about this topic, and I'm really excited about this. And you would just really help me out if you could pre-save this song. You can pre-save it everywhere. So Reborn. And then there's the full EP that's coming out on the 11th of February, so that's still some time. You can still pre-save it already. My song Reborn, it comes out on the 20th of November. That's one day before the 21st of November. That is Transgender Day of Remembrance. November is also Transgender Month of Remembrance. It's all about trans people who have been murdered, who've had to experience violence and died because of it. I think it's still something that's not talked about enough in like the big media, you know, not just in our community, but like further than that. I think it's something that needs to be talked about more, because there's so many trans people who just die because of violence against them, and it's really not normal. It's mainly trans women and trans women of color in particular, but I don't even have a word for it. It's like just horror, you know. It's not okay. And I hope that my song Reborn, coming out a day before the official day, maybe it can help some people feeling normal, you know. Because sometimes I think we can really feel abnormal in this world, and it's not your fault, it's just the fault of the world, you know. It's not your fault. It's really hard to get rid of internalized transphobia, and it's really hard to see people experience violence, experience just like violence, physical violence, and violence with words, you know. It's both violence. We should never normalize it, because it's not normal that we have to experience that. And I always feel like the only remedy or the only thing we can do to fight against that, to fight against the violence we experience, is try to show the world that we are normal. Because if everyone will start believing it, then they will not find a reason anymore to act out these violent acts. You know, I'm not very good in explaining things in English, but I hope you understand what I mean. For me, it's really important that this video for my song Reborn goes out into the world and shows that there's trans people, that there's a lot of us, and not just white people who've had top surgery, but like people of color, fat people, people who've had top surgery and who are pregnant. You know, it's all normal, it's all okay, and it's all part of all these people are part of our community, and we are also part of a wider community outside of the trans community, you know. We are just human. So that's what I want to show with this video and with this song, that is just all okay and normal. And I hope I actually hope that it's not just going to be something that is shared within the trans community. I really hope that it will be shared outside of that community, because otherwise it will kind of lose the aim of it, you know. I don't want it to be something we only share. It's really cool if we share it, you know, but I want it to be something that can make a point come across, and that can maybe be the beginning or have like a tiny effect on people who think otherwise of us. Maybe it can be the beginning for them to realize that it's normal. And maybe not, and that's okay too, because I cannot change the world with one song, but I can try to. What I want to talk about that is related to this is top surgery, and if there is a need to add trigger warnings and maybe blur out top surgery scars in photos or not. And I don't think the discussion, it needs to end with a yes or no answer, because there can just be different opinions within a community and outside of a community about a topic, and that's okay. But I would like to express my opinion and why I'm so strongly about it. And I don't expect anyone to change their opinion or something. I just want to talk about things. Mainly because actually I thought that I really had an opinion that hardly anyone had in the trans community, because I started posting photos of me with my wounds when I just had top surgery, and then it became scars. But I always posted these pictures on Instagram and other social media without thinking about having to add trigger warnings or blurring them out or anything, because it was like normal to me that I was like this, and I felt like I should share it, like the real reality, you know. Also because I think social media platforms, they are ours, so we can do with our profiles what we want to do with them. And as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, as long, you know, as we're not spreading hate against somebody else, I don't feel like we need to censor ourselves or anything, because bodies are bodies and we should be able to show our body like it is. If you are walking around in the street, if you are going swimming, you can also not blur your scars out, and you can also not add a trigger warning for anyone. So then maybe it can hurt someone, maybe it can trigger someone, but then it will happen because that's just life. There's so many things that you can get triggered about. And okay, some things I really understand, like trigger warning mental health, trigger warning suicide, you know, heavy topics that are really hard to deal with for some people. Maybe blood, I also understand that. But scars, top surgery scars, I don't feel like it's something I should be worried about that I'm showing it, because if I'm adding trigger warnings and blurring out my scars, what am I saying to the world then? What am I doing then? Because I firmly believe in showing my body as it is now, because there's not many depictions of it. And if I start doing that, I'm kind of censoring myself. And I think if I would see someone else doing that, seeing someone else on their profile blurring out things and whatever it is, if they are blurring out something, it means that they are censoring it, you know, that it can be seen, or the platform doesn't allow it, but it means something. It's not just a simple blur. But what I've seen is that in many trans groups, LGBT groups, it is being asked that you at least add trigger warnings to photos of yourself when you are showing top surgery scars, and even as well if you show nipples. Those are two different things, but for both you kind of have to add a trigger warning. From the first time that I encountered someone asking me to add a trigger warning to a photo, I still remember that it felt kind of uncomfortable for me. But who am I to discuss it when it's a rule in a group? I am like, okay, it's not my group, I'm just part of it, so I have to follow the rule in that particular group. But I cannot say that it felt right to me, because especially, okay, there's two things. And the nipples is the most strange to me, because if a cis man is in a group, he would never have to think about his nipple, you know, because a nipple is just a nipple. So why would I have to think about the fact that I have a nipple? That I have to add a trigger warning for my nipple? What is that going to trigger in anyone? A nipple? I don't understand, but okay. But the second thing, the top surgery scars, I can understand a little bit more, because it's a scar, and a scar maybe can trigger something. I can understand. Still, it didn't feel right to me, because it is normal. And when am I going to be able then to show my chest without any restrictions ever? That's my question, actually. If I have to do that, when can I feel completely free of feeling like I am not normal? I think when adding trigger warnings adds to making something abnormal that should be normalized, then I think it's defying the goal of it. Because what is most important, that I don't know, it's a hard discussion to have, and I feel like maybe I'm already triggering someone with what I'm saying, and maybe someone is already unsubscribing because of what I'm saying here. But okay, I understand where it's coming from, because I can understand that for example, for someone who is trans, who has had that surgery, it can maybe trigger trauma that they had around that surgery. Maybe they relive the trauma, maybe they can feel the pain kinda when they see scars on someone else. For someone who is cis, it can feel like it's something related to breast cancer. Maybe they themselves have had breast surgery, not because they wanted it, but because they had breast cancer, and it kind of looks the same, I guess, on a person, and that can then relive trauma. Or maybe they know someone who has had it, and it was also very difficult. So I understand where it comes from. I understand why people would ask for that. But I think we always have a choice on how we react to feedback or to comments, because we can understand someone, but we can also know what we stand for and what we feel like is okay to do and not okay to do. So ultimately, on my own profiles, I am the one who is posting things and can decide what I do and what I don't do, as long as I'm not really harming someone. And that's the thing about social media. I am not harming someone if they can just unfollow me, and just not, if it triggers them in some way that I am showing my body as it is, then they can just unfollow me, you know. I'm not asking anyone to follow me and keep following me when I am triggering them. I wouldn't want that, actually. I wouldn't want that. I just, yeah. But for like about half a year, I did add trigger warnings to all my photos, and I did blur out my scars, which was a lot of work, I have to say, because every photo I had my scars visibly in. I had to think about, okay, I have to blur them out, and then try to do it well, because you know, if your blur is too big, then you're almost like, your face is maybe also starting to get blurred. So it was just always like a whole editing thing, and that felt really like censoring to me, but I couldn't name it back then what I was doing, why it felt wrong to me, and I was still doing it. But it really felt a bit like censoring, because I was something I was really proud of, that I have fought for such a long time, to be able to see my body like that and to show my body like that. I was now editing it out of my photos, and I was adding trigger warnings, like I am someone that is triggering to someone else, just because I wanted to make a few people more comfortable with me. And I think that's not okay if you go that far. But so for about half a year I did that, because I never want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, and I'm like a very empathic person, sometimes a bit too much. I know you might think, like, how can you be too empathic? I don't know. How can you be too empathic? Well, when you start thinking more about the feelings of someone else than you are thinking about your own feelings. That's when you are being too empathic, and you are actually kind of lying to yourself, because this was never what I wanted to do. I just everything I stand for was in everything that I stand for as a trans person. I was going against it by censoring myself, because what I stand for, it's showing these bodies. I want to see people like me. I wouldn't want anyone else to hide things about them, because I want to see people who have had top surgery scars. I would like to see as many people as possible who have had top surgery. I would like to see them everywhere. I would like to see them on TV. I would like to see them in magazines. I would like to see them everywhere on YouTube. Let's just take over YouTube, like, as a whole. And I would like to see them on social media. And again, I also think that in real life, this is just part of who we are. So why would we censor that part of us on social media, when if you encounter a trans person in real life, you will also have to deal with that. If you go to the beach, you see someone with these scars, you will see it, you know. They are not going to hide it for you. So sometimes it's also about the other person who is triggered by it, it's also a process for them to accept it like it is, and maybe they can deal with it. I had trigger warnings for mental health, for suicide, for heavy topics that I discuss, you know, but I'm not going to add trigger warnings again for top surgery scars. I can add trigger warnings about dysphoria. This is also something, because it's a feeling, you know, it's something that can, if you read about it, you can maybe start thinking about your own body again or something. But scars, no, my scars are part of me, and they are not I am not a trigger. This is part of me. I am not a trigger. So I'm not going to do that anymore, and I still understand the people who ask for it. Don't get me wrong. I understand where they're coming from. I fully empathize with them, but my opinion is that we need as many people who show themselves as a trans person with top surgery scars on platforms, on social media, without censoring ourselves, because it defies the goal. It defies the goal of normalizing ourselves and normalizing our bodies. There needs to be a balance in adding trigger warnings to everything, and also being yourself and showing how and who you are without censoring yourself, normalizing ourselves. There's one more thing that I want to discuss actually. So I made a post on Instagram about this whole talk that I talked about right now, about the discussion, do we first have to add trigger warnings to photos of ourselves with top surgery scars? And secondly, do we have to blur out scars? Because I think it's two different things, and maybe some people think only the trigger warnings are enough, but others want both, or people want neither of them. I want to mention that there's a few people who do feel like you should add trigger warnings, and that's okay, because we all can have our own opinions, and those people know that they can unfollow me if it's too much for them, that I won't add any trigger warnings. I want to mention that. I also had a few DMs as a reply. Almost everyone said we should not censor ourselves, we should be ourselves, we shouldn't add anything, no trigger warnings, no blurring out. Like, everyone was very kind, which I didn't expect actually. I thought I would get a lot of backlash. As a person in my real life, I think too much, I care too much about what other people think of me, which sometimes leads to me doing things just to be kind to someone and to make them comfortable, when I am feeling uncomfortable with that decision or that situation. And I was like, no, this is enough for me, this is my platform, and I'm going to be me. And I worded it very kindly, in a very understanding way, so it's not like I was very rude or something, but I did make the point that I am not going to censor myself anymore, and this is why. There were a few people in my DMs who did make the difference between wounds and scars, and this I understand. Yeah, I understand that there's a difference between full-blown wounds, so the trigger warning is then actually about the blood that you can see in the actual wound, which is more difficult to see, to watch of course, than a scar that is more healed. I understand that when it's a wound, that there may be more need for a trigger warning than when it's already a scar. For example, in my case, I've already went through that wound phase, and I don't think I will have it again, because I even had a correction of one of the scars, and that's already healed too. So for me it won't make much of a difference, but that's maybe something to think about that difference. And I also got people saying that ultimately they understand both sides, just like I do, but it's the personal choice of someone if they will add a trigger warning and or blur out scars in their photos. And I agree with that. So if I follow someone who does do this, then I will not unfollow them for that, because I did it myself for a long time, and I understand the other side. And in groups that ask this of me, I will just do that. So I hope I made that clear, and if you made it until this part of the video, then yeah, please pre-save my single Reborn. Set a reminder on the YouTube video, it's already online, you can click on set a reminder. And you can also pre-save the EP Transition Town, which comes out on the 11th of February. So yeah, thank you very much. Bye bye. The true love from within battle skies. Now I'm reborn, can occupy space in